Hey, there it is. There it is. Good day. Good day. Good day. What's up, wife? How we all doing out there?
Hello, hello, hello.
Brian and Mercedes Arahan here with the RESWealthy team.
RESWealthy.
Just another day. Another day in the office. Another day in the lab. What are we doing?
We are thriving and surviving.
Nice. That's really nice. I'll take it. I'll take it.
We are thriving and surviving.
I will take it. So, Mercedes, what are we doing here? Why we got this thing recording? Why are we sitting with the lights on? We got mics going. What's the word?
The word is literally giving the word. I feel like you and I really came to the realization of wanting to do a podcast is really talking about things that matter.
Yep.
Our clients send us TikTok videos of the fun stuff that real estate agents are doing, online. And yet, are they being educated to the best of their abilities? And 9 times out of 10, they aren't.
Or not.
So here we are. Here we are.
This is it. This is it. This is what we're doing. So, I think that it's important for us to have these kind of conversations just about, what's going on in the market, what's going on in our business, what's going on in our lives, the state of the industry, the state of just overall all the things that are going on. And I think everything's moving pretty quick, almost like light speed. And this is our attempt to keep people up to date on what's the word, what's going on, and how we're doing. So, with that, this is something that we're going to continue to put out. RESWealthy Talks. Thank you for joining us and listening in. And whether it be for a few people or a bunch of people, the goal is, and our heart is behind just sharing truth, sharing clarity, sharing information that's going to help empower our folks, right? Empower our people. Now, this is for the folks that we care about us, right? That care about us. If you don't care about us, hit skip, hit, delete, just keep moving it on. And that's from the heart, right? Because the content that we'll be putting out, the content we put out is from the heart, and we want it to be reciprocated. We want people who we care about to enjoy it, appreciate it, share it, like it, and
Grow from it.
Grow from it. Yeah, that's very, very important. So,
for those who don't know who Brian and Mercedes are,
yeah,
hear a little bit about Brian.
No, let's start with you first. ladies first.
I see what you did there.
All day.
Well, my funny yet it's stuck hashtag, I guess you could say, is people call me $1 Million Mercedes. It was a thought that I had, once I started my real estate career of like the trajectory I wanted, and, it stuck. So I've been in the industry for 13 years now. I was what you call dual career. So I started off I was a makeup artist, have an artistry side of me as well. And, decided that with that free spirit nature of mine, the next industry to level up in my life, real estate seemed fitting. You still get to create your own schedule and live a life by design. And to be honest, even, when I was in that other career field of makeup, I actually had a lot of clients that were real estate agents, and kind of started to spark that, idea in me. And I took the test, passed the first time, and, did the dual career for a while until I decided that this was the space for me to move into this career field, full time. And I think as soon as I went full time, I was one of the top agents in our office within 6 months. I really honed in on my craft, and I was all about staying learning based. Every class, anything you could think of, I was there. He's smiling because he's got more to this story.
No, tell the folks the truth. We're skipping quite a good amount of things here.
Oh,
Where do I come in the mix? You said you skipped straight over the going into full time. Like, how did you get to be full time?
point. Well,
By the way, here's a lesson in that. For those of you who are really working, with agents out there and working to partner with agents, the best shot that you have to be successful in buying, selling, and or investing or financing your property is by working with somebody that's full time. Not to say that part time you can't do it, but you were that. And
Mhm.
can you talk about that and talk about what shifted for you to get you to full time, and then because by the way, we're always educating not only our clients but also folks who potentially want to jump into real estate as well. So, what does that look like?
So let's start with how I transitioned into full time.
Bring it. The people want to know the truth.
Brian and I worked at the same office early when I initially got my real estate license, and yet
do tell.
We were at Keller Williams Yorba Linda together, and Brian ended up transitioning into leadership role with Keller Williams Tustin, which they call that the CEO or team leader at the time, and ran into him at a mixer and got recruited. Got recruited to his office. You wanna dive into that?
Well, she was a tough one, right? So, I mean, when we sat down and we had the conversation, I did the whole thing. I was suited. She was professionally dressed, and so we came in, and she's in the office in Tustin, and at that time you were part time, and as far as just how you were working the business, you knew that there was more there. And I said, look, I mean, I've been doing it, and so I'm going on 16 years in, second generation. So like I knew the business in and out. And at that time I was coaching, I already had a sales team, and I was helping people in the business on a regular basis. So like I already knew what to do. And so I'm, pitching the idea of joining her office, and she's like pushing me on splits and commission breakdowns and all of that. I'm like, what do they say? 0% of nothing is, 100% of nothing is nothing. So, however, she didn't care. She's like, I want my high split. I'm like, so we came to terms, after a tough negotiation. And at the end of the day, I said, look, and I'm confident. I was confident. I said,
you said I'm gonna make you a top producer. I remember saying, and to myself, this guy.
Like you follow what you do. You follow what what I share with you to do. There'll be no problems. And so then what happened?
He had another agenda, y'all.
Yeah, and no. Yes, I know. And I didn't at that time, it was all up in the air. However, your coachability, if that's a word, your ability to be coachable was attractive to me, right? Because with the things that I shared with you to do, there was some pushback. And yet after I explained, you're like, all right. And so inch by inch, you did what you did. And then before you knew it, you were you had enough reserves for you to go all in.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctively, I think, you got to a point to where you probably had a year to a year and a half worth of salary in your account before you decided to go full time.
Yeah. And the missing piece of what the hesitation was to go full time into real estate is at that time was a single mom. It was, myself and my son. So you got to think about the overhead and the bigger picture of things of like, wait, going from a salary to, commission based, that's scary. It's scary for anyone. And yet I decided to bet on myself. And as, I started to gain momentum in the real estate industry, you close a transaction, you're like, okay, this is starting to feel better. You help another family. Okay, this is starting to feel good. And it was like by the third one, I'm like, okay, this feels right. I feel like where I need to be in life, and I could start to take that step back from a salary type position and really hone in on this craft, because this feels like home. And I'm still able to help people. I had a career of helping women and sometimes men feel beautiful. And now I'm able to help individuals, couples, families with their dream of home ownership. So,
And what were some of the things that you going from part-time to full-time, how were you able to better help your clients? How are you being able to uh, show up better for your clients as a result of going all in?
I mean, when you're focused on that one thing being, real estate, whether you're buying, selling, or investing, that's where all my time and energy is spent on, you know, navigating the craft. It is a craft to really understand the industry in and out, as well as now my time is focused on my clients and doing the best service that I can possibly can for them with the space that I can create, my own workflow and my own schedule versus, still working two jobs. That first job is the focus when you're a dual career. You have a set time, you have to be at work, clock in, clock out, and then real estate was the behind the scenes basically. And then when you go full time, if you're not honing in and learning your craft at that moment, then get out the industry.
Well, so to your point, you're talking about honing in your craft, and one of the reasons why, again, I'm not, disparaging anybody that is part-time in the business or anything like that. It's just so much to do, so much to handle, so much to keep up with, that if you're somebody looking to buy, sell, or whatever, invest or finance, you've got to make sure or be confident that the person that's representing you is thinking about you around the clock, is thinking about your needs and your wants and your desires as far as property goes, and making sure that they're looking for solutions around the clock. So we know real estate is 24/7 for the most part, and at the same time, we've got to do a job of how we're communicating what we're doing in between conversations for our clients. And so, meaning, you know, think about, like, over the last few years, how many times have contracts changed?
Oh, we just had a big contract change this year. And to think of someone like myself who's been, licensed and active for 13 years now, to go and now relearn contracts. However, I'm no better than anyone, meaning there's always room for growth and opportunity to learn. So as soon as they release the contracts, I actually asked my broker, I was like, I know they're not out yet. And can I see what we're going to get into before, the full release? I actually want to start learning and practicing all of this. And so, our broker liaison was like, of course, and sending things, what was, crossed out in red. Here's what California Association of Realtors changing. Here's what's going to be implemented. Then spending hours on learning the changes of the contract. It sounds like minutia, and yet my job is to protect our clients and one of the biggest assets that they'll ever have. So I get excited about those things, especially when change is happening for the betterment of our industry.
Yeah, you're so right about that. It's just one of those things that it seems that we have to continue to evolve in the business. We have to continue to evolve in our support. And again, whenever you're deciding to bring on or hire somebody in the business to help you buy, sell, or finance, um, those are one of the questions that you want to ask is, so how long have you been in it the whole time? And it's just I'm 16 years in, and half of that time has been in brokerage management. So going a little bit about what
let's hear about Mr. Aaron over here.
Yes. But half of that time is in management of brokerages, and so for me, started selling real estate in college. And so, shout out to my Cal State Fullerton alumni, go Titans. And, that's something that, we, in between classes, I was selling real estate. And so, I got a start early on into what it took. And then as soon as, 2012, hit, I decided to go, I graduated and then went right into real estate, full time, no strings attached, no backup plan, nothing. It was probably one of the more nerve wracking 2 months that I've had in my career. Because I didn't have any transactions going at that time, right? Because my last semester, I was like, look, I'm gonna crush it. I'm gonna finish out. I'm not gonna, have to come back after 6 months. Like this is all or nothing. So like I did nothing but study and whatnot the last 6 months. So my transaction or my pipeline for clients, helping them out was little to nothing. So I went in. I remember it was June 1st, 2012 is when I started like my first official day in like real estate is what I'm going to do for the foreseeable future. And I just grinded. I worked. I was in, much like Mercedes said, I was in every class. I was educating myself, best ways to handle clients, support clients, and I was maniacal about it from day one. Meaning, I'm in at the office at 7 a.m. and that was something that was important to me. Like I would pay my office manager at that time uh, money every single day that I was not in the office by 7 a.m. And transparently, it was $5. I was like, hey, I'll pay you $5. And at that time, for just somebody leaving college, I didn't have at $5 was all I had.
You can't. What do they say? You have 2 nickels.
I didn't have 2 nickels, 2 dimes, 2 pennies, right? I didn't have $2, and so I ended up. That was actually my money to eat that day because that's when the $5 footlong still went a long way, and the $5 footlong was actually like $5. So and there was a Subway right down the street from the office. So like I had my whole thing planned out. So I went and I would race down, Yerba Linda Boulevard, attempting to get right into the office by 7. And he'd come in. Either he was there already, and watching, hey, because he was an early riser too, so he was like, all right, oof, you made it. Or like he would come in like literally maybe a few minutes after me because he would get in there, and he's like, hey, did you make it in? And he was always out of the system, but I was like, nah, I didn't make it in today. Here's $5. And then I'd be eating all kind of snacks in the office like chips and Doritos. You know, bunch of coffee, anything I could find, granola bars for that day because, my money for the day for lunch was spent because I was late.
Long change.
But there were so many days I would leave, no tie on because I would tie it up every day. Literally no tie on. No, I'm just running to the car because I knew if I didn't leave my house by 6:45, I was going to be late. So all that to say is fast forward.
Yeah, how did you go from that?
I was a student of the game, and so I turned into Rookie of the Year after that. That dedication, showing up every single day, turned into being able to close enough to become Rookie of the Year for that year. And then the following year, we've always helped. I mean, minimum 2 to 3 people per month has been like our minimum in terms of supporting homeowners, buyers, and sellers. So that turned into being just a top producer. That's just always been the standard. So for me, that turned into being a top producer very early on, and that's where it just stayed. And then so because I was always in classes and whatnot, people started to come to me for my advice, my questions, to answer questions, and then turning into, hey, would you teach this class? And then from there, I started teaching so much that I become certified to teach with Keller Williams Corporate. And then now I'm a certified instructor within the company. And then so now I'm teaching, and this is probably from end of 2013. I didn't become a become a manager of an office until 2016. So it was a good 3 years or so of just straight teaching, instructing, educating myself. So I come with all this content. And meanwhile, I'm selling real estate. I'm selling real estate. I'm selling real estate. And then it turned into bringing other people on to help them sell real estate and do that better than I found it. Do it better than I could a lot of times because, over time, you just get to such a level in terms of education and content that and then there's also other people who become better at doing certain things that you could. Like I'm like thinking entrepreneurially, I got all this stuff and like I want to accomplish all these things. So at that point in my career, I got bit by the education, teaching, coaching bug, and I no longer felt as excited to transact and help people transact. Like that would come back later on. But at this point, over the next, from 2015 all the way to, man, it's about 10 years that I just really got honed in about just the education and training and consulting. And and professionally becoming a real estate coach, with Keller Williams Corporate for 5, 6 years after that. So all that to say is once we exhausted, and then that's how, you and I met was during that path of me coaching and instructing. So that was what, 2018? So fast forward, became 30 under 30 for National Association of Realtors in 2018. Yeah, and in 2018, after that, that's when you and I, the end of 2018 is when we started connecting again. Um, and then so from there, it was really just about, helping other people. So I always had this energy to help folks. And that's where, your Murder She Wrote. Right after that, we just killed it. We killed it after that. Once I introduced, everything that I had learned to you, and then you had just ran with it and you crushed it. And then I was like, okay, there's something here, right? She's coachable. And then from there, we decided to, well, we got engaged, and then it was like, okay, we're doing things the right way. Now let's actually partner up in the business. And then that's where, RESWealthy was born. The RESWealthy team was born after that, right? So it's a very interesting, moment where we can kind of recollect all the things, all the lessons, and all the things that we've been working to accomplish over the years. And I'm excited for what we're doing now. I think it's another level. So, as I share all of that, I mean, what are some of the things that you think of in our early start and really, you know, starting out with RESWealthy and um, all the things that we've done so far? Like, what stands out?
I think the thing that stands out to me the most is our love for coming from contribution first and education first. I think that truly sets us apart from any and everyone. In my humble opinion, is just the main thing that we want is our clients to feel comfortable and confident in this real estate journey that they have. And that starts with what we're doing now. I mean, our consults are this laid back while we're educating, asking questions. How do you feel about this? And then it's like a no pressure zone. We could, and these are things we'll talk about, on further episodes. And yet there's people that we've followed up with for 3 years before, they're ready. And, we might have some of those people come on because some of them are my dear friends now. However, that's the stories that they tell people, or, Mercedes and Brian made me feel comfortable. There was never any pressure. And when we were ready, they were like, let's go, let's get it. And so I think really transitioning into the RESWealthy, movement, I like to call it, is building that generational wealth, especially for those who are more marginalized. When you think that there is no way or no path for you, there's so many opportunities to make this an opportunity for you.
Well, so the reason why we really, coined the phrase "RESWealthy" and it's trademarked, and the idea around, it's a movement, it's an action, right? Where being RESWealthy, it's an action, and, it's a mindset, it's a way of life, it's a lifestyle. And for us, we really think of it as the process of it getting educated, because you're never done. And so, Mercedes talks about, our approach in educating. Yes, it's a bit laid back, yet still professional. And at the same time, it's solely focused on education. So whether you're looking to do something today, next week, next year, 2 years, we have content to help you with that, whether it's live one-on-one or it's our curriculum that we've put together online. You can get access to that on RESWealthyUniversity.com. And, that's just something that we put together just to be able to make sure that you can tap into information that's always not readily available. A lot of people, I don't want to have any sense of potential gatekeepers of information that is meant to move everyone forward. And that's why we put, RESWealthy University together is because, as going back to my brokerage management days, by the way, our brokerages are typically bigger, right? And so at one point, my offices oversaw about 250 agents. And so because of that, you get to see how a lot of different agents are moving, looking into their individual businesses. And consulting, questioning, just overseeing, and based off of that, I couldn't tell you how many times. I would say probably just a majority of the agents are, oh, you want to see a house? Perfect, I'm there. Or you want to buy a house? Oh, perfect. Let's go.
Which
Let's
is
go do
so
it.
dangerous. And that's a whole nother episode to go
Well,
into.
the thing is, if you don't stop to slow down to understand why and how, financial budgets and, what's that, how is that going to, because at the end of the day, when you take on a certain mortgage and maybe a higher payment that you've never taken before, or a commitment that you've never been in before, let's make sure that you're comfortable with that for the next 30 years, right? Because it's a 30-year commitment in most cases. And so with that, based off of that, are you comfortable paying this payment for the next 30 years? Or, you're going to sell your home. Let's make sure you're not sitting on the market for 6 months before you're like, you know what, I give up. And or 2 months, 3 months. Like we're selling stuff within, a lot of times 10 days. The first 10 days we're selling stuff. A lot of times it's the first 7 days. In most cases, it's like we'll get offers in 5 days, multiple offers, but then after that, we take another couple days to sift through and negotiate and find out who's going to be the best one to proceed with. And so, but the only way that we can get those kind of results is that we've set the education up ahead of time.
We set the standard, I would
The
say.
standard, all the above.
Some of the feedback I've gotten, when people decide that they want to work with us is, oh, everything's so formal. Like normally I just click a button on Zillow or Redfin and an agent shows up at a house to go show me. And my thought process is, actually, why would you want to work with someone that has no process, didn't ask you about yourself, didn't, dive deeper into, what motivates you? Why do you want to buy or sell? And really looking into everything to make sure that you're in the best position to win. To me, I want that winner.
Well, it's the idea of having somebody just order taking, and the idea of somebody actually being a consultant.
Yeah.
And we pride ourselves on being consultants. That's what we do. That's how we help you succeed and win. For instance, I just had a good friend of mine, a buddy from high school, just get under contract, and the guy, he's he knows exactly what he's doing. You could say he owns other property. He is savvy, and yet he knows what he knows, and he knows what he doesn't know, and yet he's willing to say, all right, well, what do you think we should do? Where are we at? I'm like, I appreciate that, because I am the professional. I'm the professional in the picture, but yet the thing is, he's willing to say, okay, I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. So what do you think about this, and how should we proceed from here? And as a result, would you have it that we just are closing next week on a place that he got with $15,000 in closing costs, $30,000 off of asking, and some really cool upgrades in the house that we negotiated for to keep, that the seller didn't know if they're going to take or not. And so
that's a skill set, negotiations.
And there's so many people. I cannot tell. The amount of stories, and we'll bring that into these conversations. Just the amount of times that we find that the asks or the negotiations in certain instances don't make it past the gatekeeper, being that other agent, because you have an agent who's not knowing how to communicate with that person, and as a result, they're upset at the communication, and so they don't even really do their best to fight for what your client may look for and want. And so, for instance, it's like it takes a skill set to be able to say, all right, here's what we want. We need these closing costs. And yes, it's a lot of money. And yes, we're asking for a price reduction as well on top of that. So how do you get somebody who represents the seller to come together and say, okay, you're asking for a good amount, but I'm going to continue to communicate that anyway, and have the seller contribute towards those things. That's a skill set in being able to get that person on board, so that way they can get their client on board. That's a skill set, and not enough people understand that. Not enough people cherish that. Buyers, sellers, and also agents. A lot of agents don't hone that craft. So that's what we love to do, particularly Mercedes, in being able to protect your interest and work to get other people to help you win as well. So anything you'd add to that as we wrap up here? What can folks expect? What can folks, look out for the next conversation? And again, real quick plug: if you are here listening and you're like, look, I could use some information, and maybe you just want some general dialogue or information before we actually get into dialogue, that's fine. Just go to RESWealthyUniversity.com, get yourself educated. We've got a ton of courses on there that is with worksheets, handouts, videos for you to watch about any aspect of the business that you or the transaction that you'd want to know, whether it be buying, selling, investing, financing. We also offer mortgage support too. So it's important that we are able to offer you well-rounded information. So Mercedes?
Hey, some of the hot topics that we get a lot, we're going to bring to the forefront for you. Is it the right time to buy? Do we see interest rates rising or dropping?
Okay.
Now we have the new buzz, that's the 50-year, mortgage. Is it worth it? So think of all those things that pop into your head here and there, and know that these are going to be the conversations that we're bringing to you. And I'm actually really excited to talk about. So
I dig it. Mercedes? As always, I'm grateful. I appreciate the opportunity for y'all checking in, listening, and we're going to continue to just make sure that y'all are taken care of. You're educated about the process, and that you know exactly what it takes in order for you to buy, sell, and invest in real estate the best way possible to build your wealth. So, with that being said, appreciate y'all.